Yeah, whatever. Welcome back to Hopper's Hot Rods. The philosopher Lucius Seneca, I think it was him. We're going to credit Lucius Seneca was saying it anyway. Take 22. A long time ago, a philosopher, Lucius Seneca, said that people suffer more in their imagination than they do in reality. Well, I got to tell you, that guy has never shopped for gauges for a hot rod. You can easily spend $1,000 on a set of gauges that match, that do all you want to do for a hot rod, which is insanity. For $1,000, you should be able to get an old hot rod that's got gauges in it. We're going to try to make it as budget friendly as possible. Autometer is it's a brand that their quality is also well known, and the availability of all the different kinds of gauges is pretty good. So that's what we ended up using on the van. But there are cheaper gauges. Anyway, so the speedometer, in order to save a couple $100, we're going with an electronic speedometer instead of a GPS speedometer. This one is part number 1487. The tachometer is the complement to this. It's a 3-inch deal. And the reason for that is we've got an electronic transmission, so it's got an output for the provision. Take 22. The Holley Terminator X-Max system we're using has 4 output wires that you can determine what they do, which is they're assignable. So we're going to assign one for the speedometer output, because the GPS version of the speedometer that we have there is like $400, which is just, it's too much. It's too much. And we'll also be using fire to install our gauges. I don't know why it's always just fun to use a torch. It's probably something inherently primal that we can have fire on command, and that's why shows like Forged in Fire they're popular. The glass blowing also is done with fire, and it's I don't know, it's just a fun process to watch when stuff burns. We will be just melting some plastic, nothing. We won't be making a vase out of. Anyway, let's get started with our gauge cluster. All right, there's the possibly the new dash cluster. All right, this is the one that was in there. This is the original one from the 80s. This one is probably from a 91 or something. And this one also had these accessory holes for whatever those were originally, but I drilled them out and fit a couple of autometer gauges in them for the way it was built previously. So I may just do that again. I may reuse this. I haven't decided. It's got a crack in it right there, but you know, it's not a show car, and it's got a spot for the turn signal lights, which I got some LEDs. I could probably just drill a hole and stick them right there, and then do fuel, voltmeter in the middle, tachometer and speedometer either side. Or I could throw it together a little cardboard template and lay out those gauges the way I want. I could possibly even do 3 gauges here and just do speedometer and tach and fuel in this window. So got a couple of different ways I could do it. This is how the original gauge cluster was sitting behind that. So we will pin out the connector that attached it and see if we can decode what wire did what for the turn signal and the dash lights, and that's pretty much it, because this was a mechanical speedometer and we're switching to an electric. So just for fun though, I'm going to make a little template. I'm not going to do it yet. This is the dashboard we're deciding to use. I already drilled out for 2 of the gauges. I'll show you how I did that when I finish the template. You can't really tell on the video, but this side of the gauge cluster is a little taller than that side. It's not exactly square. This is not in the center, it's a little over. So I got in the vehicle and looked, and the center of the column is more like right here. Why this thing is contoured this way, I don't know. Some 80s aesthetic, I guess. So I'm gonna put the center line here, not in the center of this, because you'd think the column would be centered here and your vision would be, but it's not. In the van, I can tell center is over here. I got this piece that I cut out. This is gonna be like, this was like a temporary. So it's going to center in the gauge opening, not center over the. We're going to recess it back. It'll tilt back a little bit because that's going to look better. Also, from in the vehicle, I could tell when it's like this, it's like pointed at your chest, and I want the gauges kind of pointed at my face, so you're not looking down on them. But you'll see that once I get it on. So let's get going. And that's the basic design of the template. So if you look at the side here, instead of it being up to here like this, it's tilted essentially back. It's just kind of reclining just that little bit, and that will also give me a good place for attachment points here and here. I'll just use some little clips for the plastic, and that's the next thing, is to get a piece of this plastic that I got a big sheet of this plastic over there, and see if I can make this out of plastic, and then drill my holes and mount my gauges. And then we'll wire it up, and just a few short years we'll have ourselves a dashboard template. We can now untape it from the technical taping place where we have it. Then we could, this is our piece of plastic. It's just some ABS plastic, I think. And now what I want to do is lay this on here, but I'll probably cut it from the back side. I don't know. After a bit of cutting, you can see this matches the angle down there. I didn't make a full right angle. And let's see how she fits in here. I'm gonna go like this. Overlap this side a little bit. It's actually a fairly snug fit, which is great. There. And now this extra bit here is the part where I wanted it just to be recessed a little more and lean back a little bit, but it's looking okay. Now I can place my gauges. Now we're doing the layout for the gauges, which is just a matter of getting some hole saws the correct size and tracing them around and making sure you know, kind of got them sitting where you want them. Kind of. I mean, I guess it needs to be kind of exactly where you want them, because you're going to use this as your guide to cut the holes. But we're going to do fuel right front and center. Then we're going to do the voltmeter here, speedometer here, tachometer here, oil pressure and water temperature in this thing. All right, we're gonna drill some pilot holes here with any luck. Put on the old man glasses for this one. And we'll start with a rather diminutive drill bit and hope for the best here. Just make sure it stays snug up against the top of the deal here. Spent almost 9 minutes measuring this out, trying to make it to where it would all be fairly even and look right to the eye. All right, that's the end of that. And then we flip it over and we're gonna cut through it with this, hopefully. This is actually an impact driver, and this big thing here won't fit in an impact driver, at least not the one I have. So we'll grab the old drill, see if we can destroy this on the first try, huh? Cuts right through. Let's have a look, see how this fits. It's a little tight. I'm gonna wrap this with some sandpaper, loosen it up a little bit. If I can get this in there, that'll work pretty good, I think. Ah, yes. Looks awfully close, but we'll see. Okay, that's gonna look all right there, I think. It's gonna be right against the bottom. That's right against the top, and I might actually have to relieve it just a tiny bit with my Dremel tool, but that gives us plenty of visibility, and it looks good, so we'll keep going. It looks like it's going to be a very tight fit, but that's okay for me. I mean, I don't care. It only needs to fit in there once, right? Not bad, not terrible. Even, straight and even. point to overthink it. We got right turn signal, left turn signal, high beam indicator. And now all we have to do is put on about 50 wires. Well, here are the gauges installed. Still have to put the bottom of the dash back together, but I have to replace the high beam, low beam switch and wire up the high beam indicator. But everything works. It works better if I put the key in. We've got, let's see here. I don't know why the speedometer does that every time, but we got fuel, we got volts, we've got RPM, water temperature, oil pressure. Everything's working. We got your got stereo working, and you know, got our little turn indicators working. So far, so good, and it looks good in there. And when you're sitting back, everything's lined up pretty nice. For some reason, the column seems to be sitting off to the left, but I don't know the way it's set. When you sit where you're driving, everything's lined up like it's supposed to be. So without having to move, you can really see all the gauges, and that's nice. That's it for the video on the gauges. The next episode will cover a few of the last remaining sort of details to getting the van finished with bunny ears in the air. Take 22. The next video is going to have a few last detail, hopefully not really complicated problems that the van has. Take 22. That's it for the gauges. The next video will address a fuel pressure surplus problem that's manifested. There's something loose in the front suspension. We got to track that down. That's important. And a final run through of all the systems, and the van will be ostensibly done, and will be ostensibly the van will be ostensibly done. It'll be more or less finished and ready to put into full-time service. That's the next video. We'll also have some fun with the van, get into some adventures, get into some trouble. I mean, what's the point of having a hot rod if you don't get yelled at once for... So, anyways, as always, thank you for watching. See you on the next video.